Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to make this ear flap hat. And this is going to be for a child, so for a 19 to 21 inch head. But I will put up a chart and we'll be able to do the different sizes for multiple size heads in the video. I'm going to cover probably from newborn up to adult size. This here is adult size because my granddaughter's 11 and it'll fit her head. So, but in the video I will show you the chart and how to do your measurements. My gauge is quite loose. I had about 14 double crochets across in a 4-inch span, and I can do about 6 rows in a 4-inch span. So I have a pretty loose gauge. Whatever yarn you use, whatever hook it calls for, use that hook. These two yarns call for a 5mm, but I'm going to use a 4.5 just because I have a very loose gauge. So that's the only reason I'm using a 4.5, but you can use whatever yarn you're using. You can use the hook that it calls for unless you have a loose gauge and you want to do what I'm doing. So this is going to be built in regular crochet, no amigurumi. Let's jump right into it. The head needs to be measured from the across the forehead down behind the nape of the neck. So that's going to be your measurement for the size of the hat. This is lemon that I'm using. It's a red heart. It's 4-weight. The duckbill that I'm using, the color is pumpkin, and it's from Loops and Threads, their impeccable collection. So those are the colors that I'm using today. And I'm going to put a mat down for you, but I'll probably be changing the color of my mat through the video because of the two different colors that I'm using. You're also going to need some black. And you're going to need some buttons because that's what we used for the eyes. And then black, we just put some nostrils on the duckbill with. So let's begin. We're going to begin with a magic ring. So this is our chain 1. We're going to put another one in there. We're not counting this. You're going to put 10 double crochets into this ring. That's my 10. So this is the chain that we made to start our chain 2. You can slip stitch to the top of that and chain 2. So we're going to put a double crochet into that same space. I want you to put 2 double crochets in each stitch around, counting this as your first space. So that's 18. And this here is where we're going to put our last 2. Everyone seems to get so confused at this part. The reason it seems so close together is because we put 2 technically double crochets in that first space. The chain 2 and then the double crochet. So that's what you should have. We start like this. We're not going to have a seam in our hat. So this is your chain 2, and I want you to go to the top of that and slip stitch. So there's absolutely no gap. And then this is how we're going to proceed. Chain 2, double crochet in that space. And again, I'm going to reiterate, this does not count as stitches. So, if I can get my computer to work, your next round is going to be 1 double crochet and an increase. This is number 1. And then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 double crochets in the same space. And repeat. Shove 30 stitches at the end of this. I'm going to turn my light down a little bit. That seems so bright. Oh, that's dark. That seems dark. If it would have turned down while I was... Oh, now I don't have a screen. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Every time I go to adjust my light, my screen flashes. I am working with a new camera. If you guys don't know, my camera died. It's in the shop getting fixed. It's taking very long, and my husband just bought me this new camera for my birthday, so I was able to get some filming done because I was starting to freak out that I was going to be falling behind. So I'm on my last stitch, and that's where my increase is going to be, my 2 double crochets to make my 30 stitches. So this is the chain that we started with. We're going to go to the top of that chain, and we're going to slip stitch. Chain 2, put a double crochet. So far this is what you should have, and it's going to roll up a little bit. All depends on, too, how tight or whatever. So this here at the back, before we really go any further, we just need to sew this in. This is a hat, so we kind of can't just leave it hanging. It's really tight in here, so I like to just stay close to the magic ring when and then I pull. It's not going to come open. They never really have come open. It should stay. I gotta go around a couple times. It should stay. So your next round is going to be 2 double crochets and an increase. And this will bring you up to 40 stitches. So we're going to increase by 10 because that's how we started, with 10 double crochets. So we're going to, if I happen to say single crochet by accident, it's just an accident. Know that I mean double. So starting in your first stitch, this is number 1. This again is not counted. That's number 2. And then your increase of 2 double crochets in the same space. And repeat. So again, I am on my last stitch. That's where my double crochet is going to go, or my 2 double crochets are going to go. And then I'm going to slip stitch to this chain 2. I'm going to go to the top of it where the stitch is. I'm going to chain 2 and put a double crochet in that same space. So we're going to stop right here because this is one of the measurements on the chart. So right now this is according to the chart, a newborn size. Now my chart's never really been, it's never really failed me. So you have to measure, stay inside your outside stitches, measure across, and according to the chart, 4 to 4.5 inches is a newborn hat. So it should be 13 to 14 inches when you measure around. I won't even be able to show you if I do measure around. So if you just roughly measure around, yeah, mine is 14 inches around, and that's a rough measurement because that's hard to do, right? So that's why we always, we're going to do it this way. So right now we're at a newborn size to 3 months. So if that's the size you need, then you don't need to do any more increases. The measurement you need for the height, from that I mean this height for a newborn, is 5 to 5.5 inches. So do your 1 single crochet until the height measures 5.5 inches or 5 inches, whatever you need. So I'm going to put the chart up for anyone that needs the newborn. You can quickly read it and we'll get right back into this. If this is your size, skip to 1827 to proceed. Okie dokie. So moving forward, your next round is going to be 3 double crochets and an increase for those that are still increasing for the heads. This is number 1. Oops. And this is 3 double crochets, and then the next stitch gets your increase of 2 double crochets in the same space, and repeat. So this brings you up to 50 stitches. So again, I am on my last stitch. I'm going to put my 2 double crochets in there for a total of 50. I'm going to slip stitch to the top of this chain. I'm going to chain 2 and put a double crochet in there. So right now, measuring on the inside for the crown, we're now measuring for 3 to 6 months. If this is your size, skip to 1827 to proceed. Next round is going to be 4 double crochets and an increase. That's number 1. It's 4 double crochets and then your increase of 2 double crochets in the same space, and repeat. So I'm back around. I'm on my last stitch of 2 double crochets for a total of 60 stitches. And I'm going to slip stitch to the top of this, chain 2. I'm going to chain 2 and put a double crochet in there. So let's do another measurement. It's 6 inches now, so we're about toddler size. If this is your size, skip to 1827 to proceed. 18 to 19 inches. So this is where it also falls into the child size, because if you look at the chart, the chart shows toddler is 18 to 19 inches and a child is 19 to 21 inches. So right now it kind of falls in kind of that same area. But I did one more row initially for my last project. For that one, I did one more row, which is probably going to put us into the 21-inch range. So your final row, but if you need it toddler size, if you need the 6 inches, the 18 to 19 inches, this is where you're going to stop increasing, and you're going to start doing your 1 double crochet in each stitch around. I will put the chart up once again so that you know the height to continue, because I can't tell you how many rows because I don't know what you're making it for, but the height is there on the chart, and the chart will go up now. If this is your size, skip to 1827 to proceed. So your next round is going to be 5 double crochets. Your last increase round will be 5 double crochets increase. Unless you need it bigger, obviously you have to keep going. That's number 1. That's 5 double crochets, and then your next stitch gets the increase of 2 double crochets in the same space. And repeat. So this will bring you up to 70 stitches, and that's generally, if you watch any of my other videos, 70 stitches is usually where I stop for a child's hat. So I am on my last stitch. I'm going to put my 2 double crochets in here, and I have a total of 70 stitches. So that's as far as I'm going for a child's hat. So you can slip stitch to the top of that chain 2, chain 2, and double crochet. So we're going to measure. If you need to keep going for another row to make a full adult size head, then you can go right ahead. So mine is about 7 inches. So we're now at 6.5 to 7 is a child and small teen or small adult. So 19 to 21 inches. They kind of overlap in sizes when it gets to about around this age. So I stopped here. And keep in mind, my gauge is loose too. So right now we're going to do 5 rows of 1 double crochet in each stitch around. So we're not increasing anymore. And then stop and measure, because according to the chart, if you're doing a child 21-inch head, it needs to be at least 8 inches long. Bring back my trusty duck. So this hat here is 8 inches long. So if you're doing a child, because the overlapping circumferences, if you're doing a child 7 to 5 to 8 inches, even the small teen comes up 8 inches. Whereas an adult hat comes up 8.5. And this one here is 8, but it fits my head. And I have a 21.5 inch head, and this fits on me perfectly. So with an 8-inch height. But the ear flaps will be, if you go with the height on the chart, the ear flaps will be actually over the ears. So they'll hang down a little bit, obviously, because that's what they're supposed to do. But one single crochet, or see, there I go, 1 double crochet in each stitch around for the next 5 rows, and then we can do our measurements again. So I am on my last stitch. This is my 5 rows, so I'm just going to slip stitch. We're going to fasten off, but before you do, measure, because this needs to be a certain height according to the chart. So I'll put the chart up one more time. So mine's sitting at about 7.5 inches. I put the 0 right on the line. Mine's about 7.5 inches high. So that fits into the child a smaller size of a head. So you're looking at probably 19-20 inches. And that's going to be for a child probably 7 or 8 years old. My granddaughter's 7, so this will fit her head. And then my other granddaughter, who's 11, gets this hat. So this is your seam. It's not very noticeable, which is perfect. That's what you want for a hat. So just make sure that when we do the ear flaps, that this is at the back. Like your hat should stay like with this at the back and the ear flaps on the sides. So that's what we're going to do next. So you can fasten off your hat, and then we'll just weave. And because we didn't build in amigurumi, it's all even, so nice and easy peasy. Unless you pull too hard when you do that. So we're going to need a bunch of stitch markers to find our middle ground for our ear flaps. And that's just kind of the way I did it, and it's written in the instructions to do it that way. And PDF users, that's what all the pictures are about in your PDF is. So make sure this is at the back when we do this. So you just need to get a bunch of stitch markers. And it's 6 stitch markers. So the instructions say to fold the hat in half. So we fold the hat in half. The middle stitch you have to find is the one on the side here. So with your hat folded in half, find that middle stitch. So it's not the easiest because of the way it folds, right? So just try to match it on the other side where that stitch is. No, I did not. No, I did not do it. Be that stitch. So once you think you've got your stitches picked correctly, then you can fold it like this. This will give you a better idea. So if your seam is down the one side like this, then you're good. It's exactly folded in half. So you just make sure that your stitches are gonna, and I have to move over one. So fold it in half. I've still picked the wrong stitch. So just make sure the stitches, as long as your seam runs down this side, you know you're folded exactly in half this way, and your stitches match. So now what I want you to do, take the rest of your stitches. You're going to count 5 stitches on either side and mark them, not counting this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So mark that stitch. Do the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mark that stitch. Do the same thing on the other side. So now that we've got that marked off, you can take out this middle stitch. Turn your hat around the normal way of crocheting. And we're gonna reattach. So reattach in this stitch with a single crochet, and then we're going to put a half double, and we're going to start counting, or a double crochet, sorry. We're going to start counting. That's number 1. You're going to do 11 double crochets. I put my stitch marker in the wrong spot, obviously, because it should be on the 11th stitch. So that's my 11. You take this out. The other side has 11 stitches, so I just probably miscounted. So 11 double crochets, you're going to chain 2, and you're going to turn your work. And you're going to do 11 double crochets. So pull back, make sure you're getting into this first stitch. And do 11 double crochets again, chain 2 and turn. Chain 2, turn your work. So we're going to decrease the first 2. So a double crochet 2 tog is how you're going to see, DC 2 tog is how you're going to see it written. So we're going to yarn over. You're going to go into this first stitch. You're going to pull up a loop. Go into this second stitch, pull up a loop. Pull through 2, and then pull through 3. Lots of people will do it differently. There's lots of different ways to do it. That's how I do it. You can do it whatever way you want if you know how to do it. So 7 double crochets to the other side, and then you're going to DC 2 tog again. This is my 7th double crochet, so I'm going to yarn over, go into this next stitch, pull up a loop, go into this one, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then pull through all 3. I do it that way because it leaves less gaps. Chain 2, turn your work. Sorry, it's really hot out, and I'm struggling to have my yarn run properly through my fingers, so it looks like I'm struggling to crochet, but that's not the case. Anyway, so we're going to DC 2 tog again. Just make sure you're pulling back getting into this first stitch. And then we're going to do 5 double crochets to the other side, and then we're going to DC2 tog again. So I got 2 stitches left, and DC2 tog. So this is a little bit of the turning over stitch that happens. Can be difficult to get into. Chain 2 and turn your work. So we're going to DC2 tog again. You're going to do 3 double crochets. And then you're going to DC2 tog these last 2. Chain 2, turn your work. You're going to DC2 tog. You're going to do 1 double crochet. And then DC2 tog. Excuse me. I had to sneeze. Chain 2, turn your work. So we're going to DC2 tog. And then we have 1 stitch, a turning over guy. We're going to put a double crochet into him. And then we can fasten off. So we're going to reattach over here and do the same thing. So we're not fastening off. We're going to go around the whole entire hat now. So up and down the 2 raw sides. And we're going to do a half double crochet. But first I need you to tuck away. You could probably, I mean, we could have went over these with our half doubles, but I just find it easier just to tuck your stragglers away instead of just crocheting over them. Number 1, aesthetically, it'll look better. So it's your hat, you can do whatever you want. So you don't have to be super serious because we are going around this with a half double. But like here where we reattached, that needs to be tucked away. And then once you're done that, you can go around the whole entire project with your half double crochet. Just kind of puts a nice clean edge on it. And it's not so big of a stitch that it makes your hat go from like 7.5 inches to like 8.5 inches. But it may push it up to an 8, which is fine. Because it's not that huge of a difference, right? Half an inch. So I'm just going to tuck this guy away. So that's why I chose the half inch, or the half double, the half inch. That's why I chose the half double. It's cleaner, it's tighter, and it won't give you extra height. It will, but not that much. Here we go. So we can just start doing it from here. Whatever you do up and you come around, make sure you do the same number back down the other side. So there's no right or wrong number, just make sure it's the same. So I am all the way back around. I'm gonna just slip stitch. Oh, I think I might. Oh, this is the stitch. This is the stitch I started in. So I'm just gonna slip stitch and fasten off. So that just puts a nice clean edge all around your hat. So when we lay it all down and fold everything in half, your seam should be right at the back of the hat. I know it's hard to see it on the camera. It's hard to see it in person. It's there though. Anyway, just gonna weave this in, then we can move on. So we'll do the braids first, and then we can put our yellow away and just do the orange, and I can just switch my mat. So for your ties, this is what you should have at this point. I'll zoom out a little bit. So this is what it should look like. There. So these are kind of rounded off, but you're not going to notice that after we put the ties in. You're not even going to notice that. But so this is what you should have at this point. And again, we're going to do the ties for this before we get to the duck bill. So I measured them just so you guys had an idea. And they're pretty long because you got to do braids. You got to fold them in half too. So I measured these at 50 inches. I only measured one, and then I just the rest of them. So that's about 50 inches. You don't need to be exact at 50. It's not a thing. Pretty laid back on this channel, so it doesn't have to be exactly 50. And these don't have to be exactly 50 either. But you need 12 of these all together, because we do 6 per side. So that's my 12. Oh. just did something. So that's my 12. So you need 6 per side. So just make sure they're even. They have to be in half, like that. Hold your hat like this so that this is away from you. We're going to go in this way. So find a hole. Grab your half. And this is probably going to be a little difficult. You're going to pull this through. So once you've got all this pulled through, you're going to grab your strand, pull it through, and tie it. If you do it that way, it doesn't look so bad on this side, because it'll look like that if you do it the other way. So this way it looks decent on this side, and that's why I say to do it in that direction. Should have 12 strands per side. And then you can turn around and braid them. So you need groups of 4 to braid with. 3 groups of 4 to do your braiding. So try to keep your braids loose because we're going to kind of pull on them after. So don't make these tight at all. Ladies, you know how we make braids and then we pull on them with our hair, make them all loose? That's what we're going to do. Because we don't want these tight. If you do want them tight, like Little House on the Prairie tight, then you can do that. I mean, this is certainly long enough, but I made them this long so that we could make them all puffy, so that they're going to be big braids and not Laura Ingalls braids. If you're old enough to know what I'm talking about. So we don't braid all the way to the end, in case you're working ahead of me. We don't braid to the end because we need to tie a knot. So we need enough to twist this around to make a knot with, and then have little kind of stragglers popping out the end. So get down to you got a decent amount still kind of left, and then starting at the top, you're just going to pull to make these all loosey-goosey braids, just like you would hair, to make puffy braids. So, once you're satisfied, you got to take this and do this. So that's why we don't go all the way down. So then you make a knot, and then you just cut off the excess. You may want these longer, it's up to you. And then you do the same thing for the other side. So you just gotta make sure that they match. Matchy matchy. And now we can get on with the, so just make sure we're working at the front and everything is folded in half the way it should be, even, to start doing what we're going to do with the hat. So we'll make the duck bill next. So get your pumpkin color, or whatever color you're using for your duck bill. So this is built in amigurumi. So we're not slip stitching, we're not chaining two, we're not doing any of that stuff. So I do want you to start with a chain 11. You're going to do 9 single crochets. You know it's hot when your yarn squeaks. So in this last stitch, you're going to do 6 half double crochets, all in the same space. That's my 6 half doubles. So I'm going to pull my slip knot closed again. And I'm going to do 9 single crochets, so make sure you're going into the stitch right next to that slip knot. And I'm going to do 9 single crochets back the other way. So this is my 9th stitch. I'm just going to cut off this straggler at the back, since I weaved him in. If you didn't weave yours in, you might want to not just snip it off. Alrighty. So we're going to use a stitch marker here, just so you can follow along with me. Put a 1 single crochet in this first stitch here, and then put your stitch marker then in that same space. I have allergies, I'm going to lose my voice. So we're going to start this row off with 2 single crochets. So that's number 1 with your marker. This is an elongated stitch, so try not to go into the same spot. And I'm going to pop over here and go into that second stitch. That's 2 single crochets. And then we're going to do a half double crochet. In this next stitch, we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the same space. You'll see that written with brackets. The next stitch gets 1 half double. This next stitch gets 2 half doubles. So we're kind of doing a one half double increase. Then we're going to do 1 double crochet in this next stitch. And then this next stitch, we're going to do 2 double crochets in the same space. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets, 1 in the next 2 stitches. Oops. So 1 each in the next 2 stitches. And then these next 4 stitches, we're going to do 2 double crochets in each of them. So I want you to do 2 double crochets, one in each of these next 2 stitches. Oops. The next stitch I want you to do 2 double crochets in that same space. And then I want you to do 1 double crochet. The next stitch I want you to do 2 half double crochets in the same space. Then I want you to do a half double crochet in this space, and then 2 half double crochets in the next space. Next one gets 1 half double, and then the last 2 stitches are going to be single crochets, one in each. Oops. Just like how we started. So this is all twisty and wavy and does exactly what we need it to be like. So, your next round, there's not too many rounds in this. We're going to be 2 more rounds and then we're done. So, put your stitch marker in this next stitch. So again, we're going to start with 2 single crochets. This marker counts as number 1. That's second single crochet. We're going to do 2 half double crochet increase. We're going to do that 2 times. So that's 2 half doubles and then an increase, which is 2 half doubles in the same space. That's 1 time. That's 2 half doubles and then your increase of 2 half doubles in the same space. That's 2 times. And now we're going to do 2 double crochet increase 6 times. That's 2 double crochets and then your increase of 2 double crochets in the same space. That's 1 time. That's 2 times. That's 3 times. That's 4 times. That's 5 times. One more time. And that is 6 times. So now you're going to do 2 half double crochet increase 2 times. That's 2 half doubles. And then the increase of 2 half doubles in the same space. That's 1 time. That's 2 times. And then 2 single crochets to end the round. Your final round is going to start with 3 single crochets. That's number 1. That's 3 single crochets. Oh, it felt like something was crawling on me. So now we're going to do 3 half double increase 2 times. That's 3 half doubles And then the next stitch gets the increase of 2 half doubles in the same space. That's 1 time. That's 2 times. That's 3 times. So now you're going to do 3 double crochets and an increase 6 times. That's 3 double crochets, and then your increase of 2 double crochets in the same space. That's 1 time. So now we're going to do 3 half double crochet increase 2 times. And you should have 1 single crochet to finish the row. So that's it. That's our duckbill. Hard to believe. So you can fasten off. So you're going to need a sewing tail. But I only sewed this bottom part on. This part's not sewn to anything. So you need enough of a sewing tail to sew the bottom part down. The skinny end is the lower jaw, and the big end is the duckbill, the upper jaw. So I probably have way too big of a sewing tail. So this part gets sewn down, and then this part gets sewn. Or this part doesn't get sewn, it just gets flipped over. So you just need to know how far to sew. So you're just going to have to sew and then just keep folding this in half to make sure it's in half. That is about it. So you may want to kind of place everything to see what it's gonna, where it's gonna go, what it's gonna look like, what's gonna happen here. So lots of room though to do stuff. So when I get to where I'm kind of done, I am just going to wiggle squiggle my way across trying to keep it straight. So my thing is sewn on and it's not in the middle of my hat because I am not a good sewer. So it's close. Anyway, I did sew it so that it didn't go through to the other side. So I'm just going to weave. I might take that off later and fix it, but for now. So let's get just a little bit of black. Don't need much. A little bit of black to do the nostrils. So this is how I did my last nostrils. I just went in and out like that. At least this I got in the middle of the hat. Anyway, I just tied everything together after I did it underneath. So just kind of go down and keep it even. One nostril. Two nostrils. Whatever you want to do. And then I just scooched over with this guy. And then I scooched over with this guy. And I tied the two pieces together. So just watch how hard you pull on that. And then I just tied these together. Just secure it. And then you sew the eyes on. So my eyes are easy peasy to sew on because I don't have holes. I just have a thing at the back. So I just do I just pull it through a tie knot at the back. That is all I do. If I can manage to get my yarn threaded. So it's just determining where you want it. Finding your little guy. I do leave nubbies. Nobody ever seems to feel them. Nobody's ever told me they can feel them in any of the hats that I do. So that's all I do with my buttons, but obviously your buttons could have holes in them or whatever. Just sew your buttons on. I don't have to be this specific, I don't think. Oh yeah, my whole entire beak is not right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to fix that, but and then the only thing that's left is to put this little bunch of hair at the top. So I'm gonna use what's left over from my first roll cake, and I'm just gonna wrap it around my fingers. You don't need much because there's only a few pieces of sporadic hair coming out. So you just take our little pieces and you can just put them around the magic ring. Pull through and then pull through. And then obviously you're going to cut those. And that is it. So I can get in there. And then we just snip it off if you wanted to. Short, so it stands up all the time. And there we go. I have to fix this. Seriously need to fix this. But and we have our duck ear flap hat. Let me zoom out. There we go. So this was done for a subscriber. She asked me to do it on my Facebook page. So this is a shout out to Rainey for wanting this done, because it's super cute and I think everyone's gonna like it. So thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.